Good afternoon, everybody. On this hump day, January 28th, 2026, I got all your news for your rush hour ride home. I'm actually a little late uploading this. My son had an early nap. My wife had to get her nails done. You know how it is. We had to switch some things around. You got to be flexible out here, folks. But I'm telling you, I got an episode for you guys today. This isn't clickbait. Buckle up. We're covering everything on the bingo card today. We got Ryan Reynolds. He's finally got a statement out through his representatives as to why he sent mean text messages and why he confronted Baldoni and all of that. Then we've got an update from the Laura Owens case, as the attorney of hers that was arrested for DUI is speaking out about why I guess he doesn't want people sharing his DUI body cam video. And then there's a conspiracy that Ilhan Omar actually fabricated the scenario where she was sprayed with a brown liquid. And then we've also got ice being boycotted in Milan ahead of the Olympics. That's right. Well, I don't know why we're sending our domestic ice over to Italy, but they're like, no grazie. And then we got it, Colton Underwood. He's back in the news. So much going on there. All this and more starts right now on The Rush. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to dive into the Ryan Reynolds stuff first, but stick around for the rest of the conversation. And if you stay to the end of the episode, I'll tell you who I'll be interviewing tomorrow. That'll be on our Friday episode of The Rush. It's one of your favorite podcaster/lawyers that's covering the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case. So stick around for that. Here it is, as reported, I think initially in Puck News, just supporting Blake with Baldoni text messages, says Ryan Reynolds. Ryan's camp is defending his unsealed texts from Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's legal war, and their position is he's a good husband sticking up for his wife. Now, on one end, you could make that same claim if you were Taylor Swift. Again, this would be the claim you would have made over a year ago when you might not have known the full story. And I know what you're saying, Dave, what are you talking about? Ryan's in on it. I'm not disagreeing that. I'm just saying there's many cases in which a husband sticks up for his wife, even if his wife might have provoked an issue again, but again, not to this level. All right. I'm not defending Ryan Reynolds. To this level, if he's just sticking up for his wife, caused a lot of damage to a lot of people. And we know that's just not the case. Now, depending on what you think of this court case, it seems as though, from my opinion, that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively flew too close to the sun. They weaponized their power in Hollywood to convince their agents to drop Baldoni. They cheered with Taylor Swift when they got him canceled. You know, who's got the time for that? And it's like doing it under the guise of like protecting women is just sickening. A spokesperson for Ryan tells TMZ, yes, Ryan got involved. What husband wouldn't support his wife and the mother of his children? And by the way, the best way to support your wife is to, believe, if she's making claims, believe them, but then verify them just to make sure that you're not going, sticking up for someone who, maybe the better scenario as a husband would have been if Ryan Reynolds convinced Blake Lively to not do certain actions, which caused the internet to then hate her, which led her to think there was this smear campaign. So, the spokesperson says he saw his wife fighting daily to stand up against harassment in a private and respectful way, only to face retaliation for doing so. And again, as far as I know, there are no text messages from Blake Lively to literally anybody claiming she was being harassed. That all came out as a story afterwards. We'll come back to work if you agree not to do things you weren't already doing. That type of stuff, right? The rep adds, if anything, Ryan feels like he wasn't angry enough. He passionately believes in and will stand up for the basic right to a safe workplace free of harassment and retaliation for his wife and others, then, now, and always. A source close to Ryan tells TMZ he was only on the set of It Ends With Us twice. These emails and phone calls are from a frustrated and concerned husband whose wife was being harassed and felt as though she was being retaliated against. And again, what would the retaliation be? Are we to believe that Wayfarer Studios wanted to sink their biggest project? Were they willing to suffocate themselves in order to hurt somebody else? Like, I don't understand this idea that there was retaliation by Baldoni. The movie wasn't even out yet. They needed all hands on deck. It was Blake Lively who used the, sort of promotional card to say, I won't be promoting this if I don't get X, Y, and Z, if Baldoni's not banished to the basement. So again, I have a hard time understanding what the hell they're talking about. But for PR, I think the goal of Ryan Reynolds is not to change minds of Baldoni supporters. It's to win over the, 75% of the public that don't really know too much about this. There's a lot of loyal Baldoni people. I regularly get 20, 30, 40,000 views. I know Popcorn Planet and some others can get up to 6 figures. So if there's 100,000 people who have read these cases that side with Baldoni, there are millions of people that kind of hear these names but don't really understand. And that's, I think, whose opinion he's trying to change. And I'm seeing this play out on social media, where I'm seeing a lot of steam being picked up by the pro-Blake Lively side without any new information coming out that would be pro-Blake Lively. Does that make sense? It's wild. Maybe I just have an open algorithm, so I'm hearing all sides, but this is how it works. It's a game of sort of very slowly trying to wither away at the internet, search engine optimization, and Google ranking in order to have your side be more believed than the other. This doesn't work when this thing goes to trial. When this thing goes to trial, all of this goes away, because then people really get to see all of the information that's presented if it goes to trial. And that'll take 2 to tango if they decide to do some sort of settlement. I don't see that happening. All right, I've got an update on Colton Underwood. So here we have Michael Rappaport on Watch What Happens Live discussing Colton Underwood. It's the show called Traitors. I don't watch it. I hear it's a good show, but there's a lot of celebrities that are on this show that have got some problematic past. Colton Underwood's one of them. 5 years ago, he put a tracking device under the hood of his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Randolph's car. He sent her fake stalker messages, pretending to be someone else, actually pretended to stalk himself. Very Jussie Smollett style, what he did. And in fact, it's horrifying, because most people that have issues of DV, most people that have issues of assault in general, the most dangerous person in a woman's life is usually a man that she knows. And it's more common to be injured by someone and hurt by someone that you either love or that's close to you than it is just some random stranger. And I say all of that because it's a conversation worth having. Now, here's Michael Rappaport talking about Colton Underwood, and a clip that went viral where he confronted Colton and really ranted against him. And I think audiences are really split on this and how they feel about Colton. Let's have a listen, and then I'll give my reaction. Again, I don't even, like I said, this is my first time listening to what he had to say. I kind of thought he would talk more about Colton's previous actions here. And it seems to me as though they're not allowed to. One of the Streisand effect that's happening here is that there was an interview, I think it was Entertainment Weekly, Entertainment Tonight, one of those rags, where they said they were not allowed to ask Colton about what happened with Cassie Randolph. Now, this is what's interesting. Okay, so 5 years ago, I made this video. It went pretty viral. I think it's got over 300,000 views. It's like a 25-minute long video. And it shows the entire court document where Cassie Randolph was submitting for a temporary restraining order. She had a temporary restraining order, a TRO, and then she was going to go to a trial where a judge was going to decide if she would get a permanent one. Let me tell you this. I'd bet my entire net worth that Cassie Randolph would have won this, because she had all of the evidence. She had the tracking device that Colton put under the trunk of her car. She had the text messages where Colton was faking being a friend. I mean, it was really wild stuff. Colton was saying, know where you were last night. That is terrorizing somebody. And we can't make light of that. So one of the comments that I got, and I'm not here to blast anybody, but I did want to comment about this because a lot of people are saying, Dave, move on from this. Someone said, why still going on about this? Cassie does not want the attention. Leave her alone. Colton is married and moved on. Like him or not, you are just hurting Cassie. And my response was, she's got my info and has never once mentioned that she is bothered by this. Maybe don't speak on behalf of a victim. Now, of course, Cassie's fiance has liked these videos. I've had Cassie and her fiance come to my stand-up shows. I've never talked to her about him, but I've given her the chance to say, hey, Dave, tone it back. But the truth here is it's not about Cassie. It's about victims that exist all over our country whose voices and stories have never been heard from people that have terrorized them. It would have been so much easier for Colton Underwood to really man up, own up to this, and talk about whatever that toxic attachment he had as he was dealing with coming out of the closet, and this was his last-ditch effort to be straight. I mean, I don't care how he has that conversation, but he never did. And I think people are rewriting history with Colton. He kind of hides behind, hey, we can't talk about it. There's an NDA. Yeah, the NDA exists. The confidentiality agreement exists because Colton had Cassie drop this. They worked out some sort of deal behind the scenes. My guess is he paid her a good amount of money. That's just my opinion. I believe he probably paid her money to drop this, or maybe he guilted her saying, you're going to ruin my life. Well, here's what we know. Since this has happened, he has made far more money than she has. She's, living in anonymity. She's probably dimmed her own light because she probably doesn't want to deal with the attention and spotlight being on her. Like, you have no idea what she's been through. I mean, and again, I'm not here to compare what Colton did to Jussie Smollett because they're different scenarios, but Colton faked being a stalker, and we're just supposed to get over it because it was 5 years ago. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm not the casting people at Traitors. I'm not the people that, have great PR that swept this under the rug. All I wanted to do was reshare these clips to a large audience that has never seen them before. They are as, if not more batshit than I am even saying they are. He duct taped a tracking device to the trunk of her car. That is illegal in the state of California. The only way you're allowed to put a tracking device on someone's car is if it's a car you own and they work for you. And last I knew, Cassie didn't work for Colton. Although, as it looks like, she did him a big favor by letting this thing slide. And look, that Randolph family, God bless them. God bless Cassie's brother, who found the tracking device. I'm sure they watched her like a hawk because Colton was in the alleyways. I know it's desperate, but my shock is that even in the good Lord's year of 2026, there are people that are so quick to come to Colton's defense to tell people to move on and not realizing that Cassie has to deal with this in the back of her head for the rest of her life. I don't know. So not feeling bad that I reshared old content, showing people exactly how crazy this was. In other news, quickly, let's get to sports. Tom Brady is responding to Bill Belichick, who was not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, 99 out of 100 times, Bill Belichick, or I should say 100 out of 100 times, he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Regardless of what you think of him, he's won the most Super Bowls. He's an absolutely successful coach, the second most winning coach of all time. Here's Tom Brady responding to Bill Belichick getting snubbed in the recent Hall of Fame voting.
How did you react yesterday or this morning when you heard that Bill was not selected to be in the Hall of Fame in his first shot?
I just think that, to me, I don't understand it. I mean, I was with them every day. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, there's really no coach that should ever be a first ballot Hall of Famer, which is completely ridiculous because people deserve it. And he's incredible. There's no coach I'd ever want to play for. I'd rather play for. If I'm picking one coach to go out there to win a Super Bowl, give me one season, I'm taking Bill Belichick.
Yeah, and look, Bill's had a kind of a weird couple of years. He's dating like a 25-year-old or something. He's like 100 years old. But hey, that doesn't mean he didn't win a whole bunch of games. Consenting adults can do whatever the hell they want. And speaking of consenting adults doing whatever the hell they want, here's Nicki Minaj announcing she's Donald Trump's number one fan.
Probably the president's number one fan. And that's not going to change. And the hate or what people have to say, it does not affect me.
There it goes. You know what? She's allowed to be Trump's number one fan. I have nothing else to say about that. Here's a wild story. So ICE was supposed to go into Philadelphia as their next stop on their tour of deplorable activities. But here we have Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner vowing to hunt down ICE agents who are breaking the law. Now, again, you have to understand what he says here. You got to be impeccable with your word. He says, if you're breaking the law, we will find you. Have a listen to this.
This is a small bunch of wannabe Nazis. That's what they are. In a country of 350 million, we outnumber them. If we have to hunt you down the way they hunted down Nazis for decades, we will find your identities. We will find you. We will achieve justice.
I mean, look, I believe in the justice system that we have here, even though it's a little flawed right now. And if you didn't commit any crimes, you have nothing to worry about. Here is Chief Bootlicker Caroline Levitt here. We call her Kool-Aid Caroline. She says Democrats are calling federal law enforcement agents Nazis who need to be hunted. Will the media ask Dems to condemn? Now, I don't know if he's a Democrat. He's a district attorney, right? So, I don't know that. But either way, I think it's so funny, this is what she's worried about. Not the actual actions of these Nazis. And by the way, some of them have Nazi tattoos. But again, we can't even vet them because they have masks on. So it could be that there's a neo-Nazi militia behind ICE for all we know. And so to make those claims, it's like, well, prove him wrong, right? And again, this just goes to show, like Caroline, she'd rather discuss, oh, they're out of line, they need to just let us do our jobs, versus who I believe this is someone, right here, who's saying, you know what, try us, try Philadelphia. And to be quite honest, I don't think they're going to come to Philly now. Because I think they've realized how big of a mistake Minnesota was, and I think they realized the resolve that Minneapolis residents have, accompanied with the absolute horrific point-blank murders that they've committed, that they're rethinking the whole thing. And it's good that they're rethinking it, but we won't forget. We won't forget that Stephen Miller said that Alex Peretti was an assassin. We won't forget that J.D. Vance retweeted that. We will never forget. I mean, J.D. Vance is going to be in some sort of like presidential primary, and he's going to be at a debate. And it's going to be like, why should we have you be the president when you can't even vet something as simple as that, calling American citizens assassins without any information? Like, they'll never survive an election again. Well, let's see if we can survive the box office. These are the ticket sales for the new documentary called Melania. This is at Boston's largest theater. It premieres tonight, I guess, and they haven't sold one ticket. Listen, I get it. I do stand-up comedy. It's tough to sell a ticket tomorrow night. I'll be in Chattanooga. I've got updates, shows in March coming to Asheville. Is that what's called, Asheville? What's up, North Carolina? Do I have it right? I got to get these cities down. Stamford, Connecticut, and Boston. I'll be there in March, so you can go check that out there. But either way, I guess she sold tickets in Jacksonville. So there you go. She's selling tickets in Jacksonville, but no tickets sold in Phoenix. So there it is. We'll have to see, what the box office numbers are and if we get an accurate tally. Oh yeah, I'm guessing that the Trump was going to tweet that they sold $400 trillion in ticket sales. Everyone loves it. Okay. Well, here's Trump saying Omar had herself sprayed in town hall attack. Says he didn't see the video. That's right. This is being reported that he says, I think the quote is, the president said that Omar is a fraud and probably had herself sprayed knowing her. But then when pressed, he said, I didn't actually see the video. Well, we've seen the video, but how about this? They're now saying she nodded. Can you believe this? I literally cannot. But here they're saying Ilhan Omar nodded. Check this out. Right here. So at that moment, she she made a head move, maybe she was like acknowledging people clapping. Who the hell knows? But now Cat Turd on Twitter, who are these people, is saying, the old now nod. It was quick. Did you catch it? And again, that's when this guy got up and sprayed her with a brown liquid. Now, I'll tell you what, if this were set up, I think Ilhan Omar deserves an Oscar because she immediately went into fight mode. She wanted to beat that guy's ass. And honestly, I kind of wish they let her get a couple swings in. You know what I mean? So Ilhan Omar, the alleged syringe attacker, poses for the mugshot. So again, they say it's all, are the president of the United States of America, and we're grading him on a curve because he's batshit crazy. He's claiming, imagine if Biden was just dropping insane conspiracies. So Trump is claiming that this was a hoax. The man who sprayed Representative Ilhan Omar with an unknown substance in his syringe was hauled off to a Minnesota jail. Anthony James Casimir's was booked for assault. Yeah, that's called assault. You can't do that. So anyway, do you think, and he's a Trump supporter and he probably believes a lot of the rhetoric that's been said about her. It's just wild. And speaking of conspiracies, what an episode we have. Is this an all-star episode? I think we might be batting 1,000. I feel like a pitcher in the 8th inning throwing a no-hitter. Let's see if I can get out of here with a full win. But here we have Marjorie Taylor Greene going full rogue against Trump. She was formerly his biggest ally. And Alex Jones is still kind of like on the Trump bandwagon, which is shocking because Alex Jones, as a conspiracy theorist, he should be feasting on the Epstein files. He should be talking about it every day as the biggest, cover-up. The fact that Trump has been able to keep the files from going public and, keep the news cycle on other topics, it really is the most impressive thing he's ever done.
I'm not in a cult. I am not in a cult. People that think they have to defend every single letter or word or sentence of President Trump, if you think that's what you have to do, you are in a cult. I am not in a cult. I elected President Trump. I fought for him and put him in the White House. and again, I'll remind everybody, voted with him 98% of the time, put him in the White House because I believed in America First policy.
Isn't that wild? You could support Trump 98% of the time and you still get called like a Republican in name only, or you know what I mean? It's just wild how there is no wiggle room to criticize him whatsoever. Say what you want about Democrats, because there are Democrats that couldn't criticize Biden and things like that. Absolutely. But I think the bigger issue with Democrats is that we criticize, and I say we, but am I even a Democrat? I don't know what I'm a progressive. But we criticize each other about everything. Centrist Democrats, lefty, progressives, corporate. There's all these different versions, right? And I think I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to criticize. I think that's what sharpens the tool, is to provide that friction to make sure everyone's really working their best for the American public.
I don't believe in fighting every foreign war. I do not believe in calling affordability crisis. I don't believe that's a hoax. I don't believe raping 14 and 16-year-olds is a hoax. And and President Trump, I went against him on bringing 600,000 Chinese foreign students, continuing that in
so
America.
Marjorie, in closing, you got to come back again soon.
H-1B visas, I don't support H-1B.
He's like, you're ranting more than I am. Come on now, bring it home, Marjorie.
Visas, and I don't support the state moratorium, AI state moratorium, taking away state rights on AI. I support state rights to regulate and make laws.
And by the way, this is where I do respect Marjorie, is that she, like, the Republican Party was all about states' rights. Remember that old saying, like, well, slavery the Civil War was actually about states' rights. You know what I mean? And it was like, we want the federal budget to be lower. And it's like in some ways, it's like, yeah, you should want states' rights, and yet here we have the federal government using their power to invade different states, specifically states that have criticized Trump, Minnesota. It's just why, because they just found this giant, like, $1 billion fraud in Texas, but you don't see, the National Guard going into Texas, right? So we see this all play out, and it's super insane how Trump has convinced really every Republican that still votes for Trump, convinced them to go against the principles that they had with their party, including this week saying protesters shouldn't have guns on them. I mean, gosh, there's literally nothing you can stand on anymore as a Republican if you support what Trump's doing, period.
Let me stop you. You've always been on fire. You've always got a great record, always gut level, know you're good. My spirit tells me that. But in closing, you got to come back soon.
I have a 100% voting record, a conservative voting record, Alex. People need to judge me by my actions and not by garbage.
Yeah, my spirit tells me I love you. I just want to bang you over there in your CrossFit gym. All right, Alex, calm down. All right, here it is. Kristi Noem is now implicating President Trump for the comments she and Bovino made, calling Alex Preddy a domestic terrorist. Oh, they're all turning on each other. So here's what Kristi had to say. Everything I've done at the direction of the president and Stephen Miller. Of course it was Trump. Their statements were identical. Trump obviously pre-approved this statement. Here is, and this might make your ears bleed, here is Bovino and Kristi Noem at the same time giving quick responses after Alex Preddy was killed. Now, Alex Preddy he's an American hero. He's an ICU nurse, or was, and they labeled him an assassin immediately. And this is what the top leadership had to say.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently.
This is like when you plagiarize someone and you change like 4 words, hoping that, it doesn't get noticed.
Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead.
Now, Bovino is essentially fired, right? They demoted him back to wherever he came from. They took away his DHS Twitter, but they don't want to like fire them, because then they admit fault, and God forbid they admit they did anything wrong. Kristi Noem still has her job. And again, major Republican, senators are calling them fraud, mid-level management, horrible. But now, we'll have to see if she's just like, thrown in the basement on, at a cubicle, or will they let her keep messing up? I mean, here she is holding the gun at his head instead of to the ground. Yeah, this is what she likes to do, right? She does these little like press appearances where she dresses up, she goes to the Seacott prison. She's literally holding a gun in the direction of this other guy's head. Like, what in the hell is this like bimbo Barbie sort of cosplay thing she's doing? And, you could find photos of her wearing any number of outfits. She could literally put a calendar together for at the Seacott prison, riding a horse, metaphorically sucking Trump's dick. I mean, that's what's going on. And if you're offended by that, well, you should be offended by the murdering that they're doing right now. And, that Trump, a judge really had to rule to stop the Trump administration from destroying evidence from Alex Preddy. And, it's just wild that nothing's going to come of this. Literally, if you have an interaction with an ICE agent, you cannot verify that agent hasn't murdered somebody, because the murderer who shot 5 to 10 bullets in the back of Alex Preddy is working still with our tax dollars. And I don't think we're enraged enough. You know who's enraged? Italians. Italians are always enraged. Like, what? No, Olive Garden is not Italian. You know what I mean? Like, they're always upset. Go meet an Italian guy and be like, I love Italian food. I did the tour of Italy at Olive Garden. They'll hit you with a breadstick. But here it is. No ICE in Europe. ICE should not be entering Italy. Italian politicians protested over reports that the United States ICE agents could be involved in security for the upcoming Milan Winter Olympics. And I've had people say, yeah, Dave, but they're there to protect Americans. Why? We shouldn't need protection. If we're doing the right thing, being a good country, part of, all of these nice alliances, why do our athletes need protection? Now they need protection because our government's insane and it's led the whole world to hate us. But either way, why ICE agents? Why the least qualified? I mean, if anything, they should be like, I don't know, sheriffs or Secret Service, or you know what I mean? But ICE agents, they're literally going to send ICE agents who have 47 days of training to head over to Italy. What are they going to carry guns? Like, what are you even talking about? So here they are. It says ICE out, no grazie. So there it is. ICE, no grazie. And there they are. They're protesting us in the, we are just a shit stain on the Olympic flag right now. And finally, here we have some cross-examination of the Honorable Marco Rubio. Our country stole oil from Venezuela. We profited off of the sale of that oil. Where is the money?
Right. So it's been reported that the oil sold for $500 million. That $300 million went to Venezuelan government. What happened to the other $200 million?
It's still sitting in the account, is my understanding at this time.
The account in Qatar?
Well, the account, yes, but that will ultimately be...
Hold on. There's an account, a bank account in Qatar, aka Qatar. Lovely country. I was there last year. No, I don't. It was dusty, but very hot. So there's money in an account, and... who's in control of this money?
That's a short-term account. Ultimately, it will be a U.S. Treasury blocked account in the United States.
And will it also be audited?
Correct. Well, the audit will be on the expenditures. At the front end, we'll tell them this is what the money can be spent on. Again, I'm not talking about all the other revenues the Venezuelan government may have. We're talking about the revenues from the sanctioned oil. At the front end, we will say this is what the allowable expenses are. And then they will agree to fund, as part of the overall cost, they will pay for and fund an audit system acceptable to us to ensure that that's how the money was spent.
Little Marco, I have a question. Here from the Rush Hour podcast. Why we have a whole bank called Bank of America. We got Chase Bank, we got SoFi Bank, we've got Citizens Bank, we've got Fifth Third Bank. We got so many banks. We got the Federal Reserve. You could just put them in gold bars. We could stack them up at one of those mountains we have. Why are they in Qatar? Why is our money in the Middle East? First of all, why is it even our money? We shouldn't have stole the oil. But really, and he says, well, we're going to audit how we spend it. But that still is up to their discretion. Money should be spent through Congress. Congress votes on how we spend our money. So this is them basically pillaging another country's, oil for money. So we're pirates now, right? We got the eyeshadow on. We got the swashbuckling boots. We got the bottle of whiskey. Looking at you, Pete Hegseth. We got, Johnny Depping it out there. Arr, Captain. We got all of this going on. And so when we as in a country vote to maybe defund ICE or something, they're going to say, you know what? It's all right. We'll just call up our buddies in Qatar. I don't really like that. And so again, the questions are being asked here. Here's a question by Paul asking, if another country did this to us, wouldn't we be declaring war?
So I would ask you, if a foreign country bombed our air defense missiles, captured and removed our president, and blockaded our country, would that be considered an act of war?
Well, I think your question is about and I will acknowledge you've been very consistent on all these points the entire career. So let me no matter who's in charge. So I will point to two things. The first is it's hard for us to conceive that an operation that lasted about 4.5 hours and was a law enforcement operation to capture someone we don't recognize as a head of state, indicted in the United States, wanted with a $50 million bounty.
My question would be, if it only took 4 hours to take our president, it's very short, nobody dies on the other side, nobody dies on our side.
You can have them. We'll unlock the door for you.
Perfect. Would it be an act of war?
We just don't believe that this operation comes anywhere close to the constitutional definition of war.
But would it be an
stealing a country's president, who, by the way, we might think the presidency was rigged, but I think stealing another country's president or dictator, call him what you want, I think that's an act of war. And by the way, it only took 4 hours. Nearly 50 Venezuelan soldiers were killed. These soldiers, they were boys and girls. They're probably really young. And not only that, 83 total people were killed. There was a bunch of Cubans that were killed that were security officers. I even heard that there was a grandmother that was killed. Like, people died so that we could arrest their president and charge him with what? Like owning a machine gun or something crazy like that. And he probably won't even get convicted. So if Maduro doesn't get convicted, then we've just killed 80 plus people for nothing. And we're just supposed to be okay with that. And you wonder why you need security when you want to do the bobsled in Milan. You know what I mean? You wonder, why do we need security, Dad? Well, because our president's playing kidnap the president while he, steals their oil. Fucking pirates. All right, that's it. We'll be back in the morning. If you appreciate what we do, please, for the love of God, hit the subscribe button. We're putting our asses on the line here trying to get you the news. We are under siege. Thanks for all. And if you want to support us monetarily, by all means, go to patreon.com/Dave Neal. You can donate $5 a month. It really helps us continue to fund this insanity out here. I might have to bounce out of the country just so I can share my honest opinions. I got to look out the window to make sure that ICE isn't coming over here. And if they are, if ICE does come after me, can I at least come to Milan with you? Let me know. All right, we'll be back in the morning. As always, I'm Dave. This is The Rush.